Humanity had spread across the stars, reaching planets that were once thought unreachable. Colonies dotted the galaxy, each one a testament to human courage, curiosity, and the unending desire to explore. Among these colonies, one planet stood out, a place called Erebus 9. Far from Earth, far from any other human settlement, Erebus 9 was a world of extremes. Its landscapes were harsh, with jagged mountains and deserts that glowed under the light of twin suns, yet its people had built cities that seemed almost magical. Glass towers reflected sunlight, energy grids hummed with quiet efficiency, and green parks sprawled in between buildings. The humans on Erebus 9 had carved out a life for themselves in the middle of what many would call the void, and they had done it with pride. The colony wasn't just a place to live, it was a hub of research, innovation, and culture. Scientists worked on technologies that could revolutionize space travel. Engineers developed machines that mined minerals efficiently and sustainably from the planet's rocky surface. Schools educated children with a curriculum that combined the history of Earth with the promise of interstellar life. Art and music thrived as well. Despite being far from their homeworld, the people of Erebus 9 had made this planet their own. They had created a society that was self-sufficient and vibrant, a shining example of humanity's ability to adapt and thrive. Life on Erebus 9, however, was not without its challenges. The planet was distant, meaning that supplies from Earth took months to arrive. Communication, while advanced, had unavoidable delays because messages traveled at the speed of light. The colonists had learned to be patient, independent, and resilient. They had faced storms that tore across the deserts, quakes that rattled, their cities and resource shortages that required careful planning. Through it all, they had grown stronger as a community. People looked out for one another. Children played in streets lined with solar panels. Families worked together to maintain farms under massive domes, and the elderly shared stories of Earth and the first pioneers who had braved the stars. There was a sense of pride and accomplishment, a feeling that humanity could survive anywhere it chose. But beyond Erebus 9, in the dark stretches of space, something else was watching. An alien race, one humanity had only glimpsed through sensors and rumors, had been observing human expansion. These aliens were nothing like humans. Their technology was alien, yes, but their thinking was different too. They didn't communicate with words or signals humans could understand. Their decisions seemed guided by instinct, by strategy that humans couldn't immediately comprehend. The colony of Erebus 9 had not gone unnoticed. To the aliens, it was a target, an easy mark to demonstrate power. They did not plan to negotiate. They did not plan to wait. They planned to destroy. The first sign of trouble came subtly. The colony's deep space sensors detected an anomaly, a small fleet moving at speeds that no human ship could achieve. At first, the scientists were excited. They thought it might be a new exploratory mission from another human colony, or perhaps a long-lost research vessel returning. But as the fleet drew closer, alarms went off. The readings didn't match any known human technology. Their composition, speed, and trajectory were all unfamiliar. Fear began to spread quietly among the scientists and military personnel on Erebus 9. Reports went up the chain of command. Communications with Earth and nearby colonies were initiated. But space is vast and travel is slow. By the time help could arrive, the alien fleet would already be at the colony's doorstep. And then the attack began. It was swift, brutal, and unrelenting. Cities were incinerated in moments. Satellites that had orbited Erebus 9 for years were vaporized without warning. Research stations, some of which had taken decades to construct, were reduced to rubble. Human ships that tried to mount a defense were torn apart almost instantly. Panic gripped the population. People ran through streets as alarms blared. Emergency, shelters filled to capacity, and parents tried to protect their children from a destruction they could barely comprehend. Communication with command centers on Earth became erratic. At one moment they could send messages. At the next, all contact was lost. Families waited desperately for guidance, but none came. The colony had entered a nightmare from which there was no escape. In the middle of this chaos, acts of heroism emerged. Military officers took command. organizing evacuations where possible. Engineers rigged makeshift shields and weaponry to slow the aliens' advance. Civilians helped one another, guiding the injured to shelters, carrying supplies and comforting the terrified. But the aliens' technology was overwhelming. Their weapons cut through the strongest buildings, their ships outmaneuvered human vessels, and their strategy left no safe zone. Every attempt at resistance came at a devastating cost. Despite the bravery and ingenuity of the colonists, Erebus 9 fell. By the time the attack ended, the colony was in ruins. Entire populations were wiped out. The cities that had once shone like beacons in the darkness were now nothing but smoldering craters. The shock of the destruction rippled across human space. News of Erebus 9's annihilation spread faster than light-speed communication could. Governments convened emergency meetings. Citizens across dozens of colonies and planets watched in horror as reports came in. Humanity, which had often seen itself as the dominant force in its part of the galaxy, realized for the first time that there were forces capable of erasing entire populations in moments. Anger, grief, and fear mingled in every system. Families who had relatives on Erebus 9 mourned, even as others began to ask questions that demanded answers. Who were these aliens? Why had they attacked? And most importantly, could humanity fight back? Earth itself became a center of urgent planning. Military leaders gathered, combining intelligence from sensors, satellites, and spies with the grim reality of Erebus 9's destruction. Strategic minds debated options, weighing the risks of open confrontation against the need to protect remaining colonies. Scientists analyzed the remnants of alien technology, trying to find weaknesses, and political leaders struggled to maintain order on a home planet that was already tense with anxiety. The destruction of Erebus 9 had changed everything. It was no longer just a story of exploration and colonization. It was a story of survival, and humanity now faced an enemy unlike any it had ever encountered. Amid the fear and uncertainty, a sense of determination began to grow. Humanity had survived disasters before, natural disasters, wars, plagues, but this was a challenge on an interstellar scale. Leaders realized that hesitation could mean the destruction of other colonies, perhaps even Earth itself. Plans were drawn, fleets were readied, and scientists began working on new weapons and defenses. The survivors of Erebus 9, scattered across escape pods and hidden shelters, carried with them stories of bravery, loss, and the horrors they had witnessed. Their accounts fueled the resolve of those who had not yet faced the aliens, making it clear that humanity could not, and would not, stand idly by. And so, what had begun as a peaceful, thriving colony became the spark that ignited humanity's response. Erebus 9 was lost, but in its loss lay the determination to fight, to survive, and to ensure that no other human settlement would suffer the same fate. Across star systems, preparations began, fleets were mobilized, and a new chapter in human history was about to unfold. One written not in exploration and discovery, but in resistance, strategy, and the unyielding will to survive against a foe that seemed unstoppable. The calm life of Erebus 9 was gone, but the courage it inspired would fuel humanity's answer to the void. Humanity was still reeling from the destruction of Erebus 9. The shock of losing an entire colony, with families, scientists, and pioneers wiped out in moments, had barely begun to settle. Across human space, from the inner planets to the farthest outposts, there was a mixture of grief, fear, and anger. Families of those who had perished mourned deeply, while the news broadcasts carried endless images of the ruin. Cities turned to ash, towers collapsed into craters, and human ships shattered like glass. The horror of the attack made every other concern, politics, trade, exploration, seemed trivial in comparison. But amid the chaos, there was also a spark of determination. Humanity was not a species that could simply surrender. The people, leaders, and military commanders realized that if they did not respond, more colonies would fall, perhaps even Earth itself. The first steps in humanity's response were cautious but deliberate. Military bases were put on high alert, ships were recalled from missions across the galaxy, and entire fleets were mobilized towards strategic positions. Governments worked around the clock. coordinating intelligence, defense plans, and logistics. The news of Erebus 9 had spread so quickly that panic threatened to take hold among the civilian population, so communication officers and leaders had to carefully manage morale. Schools and workplaces shifted focus to support the war effort. Emergency shelters were readied, and volunteers flocked to enlist in defense forces. Every human colony, from the closest neighbors of Erebus 9 to those hundreds of light years away, understood the stakes. Humanity's survival hung in the balance. At the heart of this mobilization was the challenge of assembling a response large enough to matter. Humanity's fleets had never been massed on this scale before. There were thousands of warships already deployed across different sectors, some guarding trade routes, others exploring uncharted territories. All of these ships needed to be called back, refueled, repaired, and prepared for combat. Engineers worked tirelessly, sometimes going without sleep for days to ensure that ships were battle-ready. Older ships were upgraded with the latest weapon systems, experimental energy shields were tested, and automated drones were programmed for offensive and defensive maneuvers. The scale of the operation was unprecedented, and the clock was ticking because intelligence reports showed the alien fleet could strike again at any moment. Amid this enormous mobilization, certain individuals emerged as leaders, guiding humanity through its moment of greatest peril. One such figure was General Kyle Rivas, a strategist renowned for his boldness and ability to inspire those under his command. He understood that a small, cautious response would be futile. The aliens had shown that hesitation meant destruction. Rivas proposed a plan that was audacious. Humanity would respond not just defensively but offensively, striking the aliens with overwhelming force across multiple systems. His vision was not merely to stop the alien threat, but to make it clear that humanity would never be cowed or intimidated. To some, the plan seemed reckless. To others, it was the only choice. Rivas's determination inspired loyalty and courage in the human forces, giving them the confidence to face an enemy that seemed invincible. The logistics of assembling such a fleet were staggering. 500,000 ships had to be mobilized. Piloted ships, autonomous drones, and massive warships capable of devastating attacks. Supply chains had to stretch across light years to deliver fuel, ammunition, and provisions. Engineers coordinated repairs in orbiting shipyards, sometimes working on dozens of ships simultaneously. Pilots trained day and night, learning strategies and maneuvers to counter alien tactics. Scientists studied fragments of alien technology recovered from previous skirmishes, attempting to understand weaknesses in enemy shields, propulsion systems, and weapons. Communication networks were expanded and encrypted to prevent alien interception, and intelligence officers scoured every corner of human space for signs of enemy movement. Every effort, no matter how small, contributed to the larger goal, a fleet capable of challenging the aliens directly. The human population watched these preparations with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Citizens contributed wherever they could, from volunteering in construction efforts to manufacturing weapons and supplies. Stories of bravery and ingenuity circulated rapidly, inspiring others to do their part. News reports highlighted engineers who had worked non-stop to retrofit aging ships, pilots who had risked their lives in reconnaissance missions, and scientists racing to understand alien technology. These accounts became a rallying point, showing that humanity, though wounded, was capable of extraordinary coordination and courage. It became clear that the destruction of Erebus 9, while devastating, had ignited a unified effort across human space. As the fleet assembled, the sheer scale of the response became evident. Massive warships bristling with weaponry, smaller strike vessels capable of rapid maneuvers, and autonomous drones programmed for precision attacks filled strategic points in orbit. Command centers buzzed with activity, with maps of alien positions, tactical simulations, and real-time sensor data guiding every movement. The fleet was a testament to human resilience and ingenuity, a response forged from fear, anger, and determination. It was not just a military force. It was humanity's declaration that annihilation of its people would not go unanswered. Despite the meticulous planning, tension remained high. No one knew exactly what the aliens were capable of, or how they would respond to humanity's mobilization. There was constant fear that any miscalculation could lead to catastrophic losses. Debates raged among commanders and scientists. Should they strike immediately or wait for more intelligence? Could they trust the fleet to operate in unison across such vast distances? Every decision carried enormous weight because humanity could not afford another Erebus 9. Yet amidst these uncertainties, a shared determination emerged. Across planets, colonies, and starships, humans resolved to act decisively. The memory of the destroyed colony fueled their resolve, making hesitation impossible. Preparation for the coming confrontation was not limited to the military. Intelligence agencies and researchers developed strategies to predict alien movements, using mathematical models and simulations to anticipate attacks. Cybersecurity experts worked tirelessly to prevent alien interference in human communication systems. Diplomats reached out to allied colonies and neighboring civilizations for support, while medical teams trained for the mass casualties that would inevitably occur in space battles. Every aspect of human civilization became oriented toward the same goal: survival and retaliation. The destruction of Erebus 9 had become the spark for an unprecedented mobilization, one that would reshape humanity's approach to the galaxy. In parallel, the human spirit showed itself in countless personal stories. Families who had lost loved ones joined relief missions and volunteer brigades, turning grief into action. Young pilots, inspired by tales of Erebus 9's courage, trained harder and volunteered for dangerous reconnaissance missions. Engineers worked in orbital yards with exhaustion etched on their faces, refusing to rest until every ship was battle-ready. Across the galaxy, humans displayed a resilience that defied the terror of the alien threat. Their fear was real, but so was their determination. Humanity was learning that survival in this vast, hostile galaxy would require not just strength, but courage, ingenuity, and unwavering unity. As the fleet prepared to move out, the enormity of what lay ahead became clear. This would not be a single battle nor a simple retaliation. Humanity was preparing for a war on a scale never before seen, a confrontation that could decide the fate of countless colonies and billions of lives. And yet, despite the fear, despite the unknowns, there was an unshakable resolve. Humanity would answer the destruction of Erebus 9 not with submission, but with action. Every pilot, engineer, soldier, and scientist understood the stakes. They were preparing to face an enemy that had shown it could wipe out entire worlds, but they were also preparing to prove that human determination could never be extinguished. The mobilization of 500,000 warships became a symbol, not just of military might, but of the collective will of a species refusing to be defeated. Across the galaxy, humans looked to the skies with a mix of fear and hope, knowing that the coming conflict would be brutal, costly, and uncertain, but necessary. Humanity had faced many threats before, and while none had been on this scale, the response was clear. They would fight, they would endure, and they would answer the destruction of Erebus 9 with force, courage, and unity unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity's massive fleet had finally set course toward the alien-occupied sectors of space. The journey itself was a test of endurance, coordination, and patience. 500,000 warships ranging from enormous battlecruisers to nimble strike fighters and autonomous drones moved through the void in tightly organized formations. Every ship had been prepared meticulously, every weapon tested, every engine inspected. Yet despite all the planning, there was an unshakable tension. No human had ever faced an enemy like this. The alien fleet that had destroyed Erebus 9 was unlike anything the humans had encountered before. Their speed, their firepower, their tactics, all were alien and unpredictable. Pilots, engineers, and commanders alike knew that one wrong move could cost thousands of lives in an instant. As the fleet traversed light years toward the enemy's position, logistical challenges dominated daily operations. Fuel depots had to be resupplied, food and water rationed, and repair teams constantly worked to keep ships battle-ready. Even the smallest mistakes could become catastrophic, especially in the cold, unfeeling vacuum of space where a single malfunction could mean death. Communication across the fleet was a constant challenge. Messages had to travel vast distances, and there were delays even with the most advanced communication systems. Coordinating 500,000 ships, ensuring they remained in formation, and preparing them for combat required an unprecedented level of discipline and focus. Yet despite the strain, the humans maintained morale. Stories of past bravery, the memory of Erebus 9, and the leadership of figures like General Kale Rivas gave the fleet a shared purpose that transcended fear. As they approached the edge of the alien-controlled sectors, scouts began reporting signs of enemy activity. Strange energy readings, previously unseen ship designs, and massive formations of alien vessels appeared on the sensors. The sheer scale of the enemy fleet was intimidating. It seemed endless, stretching across star systems with ships that dwarfed even humanity's largest warships. Alien weapons glowed ominously, firing beams that could slice through steel as if it were paper. The humans' first encounters with these patrols were terrifying. Scout ships and smaller human vessels intended to gather intelligence and probe weaknesses were destroyed almost instantly. Entire squadrons vanished in minutes. The loss of life was devastating, and yet each encounter taught the humans more about the alien tactics and technology. They adapted quickly, analyzing patterns, testing maneuvers, and finding small ways to exploit weaknesses, however minor. The first major clash occurred near an uninhabited system that had been used as a staging point by the aliens. The human fleet, battle-hardened by training exercises and smaller skirmishes along the way, moved to engage. The battle was chaotic and brutal. Alien ships moved with an uncanny precision, striking at vulnerable points and evading human weapons with incredible agility. Human pilots, many facing battle for the first time, were terrified but determined. They executed maneuvers that had been drilled for months, weaving between enemy fire, coordinating attacks, and attempting to hold formation despite heavy losses. The battle raged for hours, and though humans inflicted some damage, they quickly realized the aliens' superiority in technology and tactics. The initial shock of their presence was overwhelming, but it also became a catalyst for learning and adaptation. One of the most significant challenges was the aliens' ability to anticipate human strategies. Their attacks seemed to come from unexpected angles, often appearing out of nowhere and striking with deadly efficiency. Human commanders quickly learned that conventional tactics would not suffice. They began developing new strategies on the fly: feints, ambushes, and coordinated multi-vector attacks. Engineers modified weapons mid-battle, using energy outputs in ways previously untested, while pilots executed daring maneuvers that required split-second precision. The human fleet suffered heavy losses, but every sacrifice was a lesson. Survivors returned with knowledge of alien ship designs, firing patterns, and potential weaknesses. Humanity was learning, and with each encounter, their understanding of the enemy deepened. Amid the chaos of battle, human ingenuity shone through in remarkable ways. One captain, facing overwhelming odds, directed her small squadron to create a diversion that allowed a larger human fleet to flank the alien forces. Another team of engineers remotely hacked a minor alien vessel, causing it to malfunction and crash into a formation, creating a ripple of destruction among the enemy ships. Pilots who had trained only in simulations were forced to improvise in real time, making split-second decisions that would determine life or death. These acts of bravery, intelligence, and quick thinking became emblematic of humanity's adaptability. Despite facing an enemy that seemed invincible, humans refused to surrender or retreat. Every small victory was celebrated as proof that persistence, courage, and intelligence could challenge even the deadliest of foes. Casualties were unavoidable. Entire fleets were lost, and the numbers were staggering. Families of the pilots and crew members watched anxiously as reports filtered back, but the human spirit endured. Even in grief, there was resolve. Humanity had faced loss before, and while the scale here was unprecedented, it only strengthened their determination to fight. Training simulations became real-life experience, and survivors became mentors for new recruits, sharing knowledge about alien tactics and strategies. With each battle, humanity grew stronger, more precise, and more confident. The terror of the aliens was real, but so was humanity's resilience. The psychological impact of these first clashes was profound. Soldiers and civilians alike were forced to confront the reality of war on an interstellar scale. There was fear, of course, and grief for the countless lives lost, but also an emerging sense of unity. Humanity, facing annihilation, became more cohesive than ever before. Alliances between colonies strengthened, engineers and scientists collaborated across star systems, and even ordinary civilians contributed in meaningful ways. Every ship that joined the fleet, every resource gathered, and every plan devised became part of a larger collective effort to survive and fight back. The destruction of Erebus 9 was a tragedy, but it also had galvanized a civilization capable of extraordinary feats. As the fleet pressed further into alien territory, the humans began to see patterns in their enemies' behavior. While initially overwhelming and seemingly random, the aliens' attacks had discernible weaknesses. Certain formations could be disrupted with coordinated multi-pronged assaults. Weapon recharge cycles could be exploited. Sensors, though advanced, were not infallible. These realizations gave human commanders hope. They understood that they were not powerless. They could learn, adapt, and counter. This knowledge allowed them to refine strategies, conserve resources, and prepare for even larger battles ahead. The lessons learned from these initial encounters would become the foundation for humanity's eventual counteroffensive. Throughout this period, communication and coordination were paramount. Fleet commanders used advanced simulations and real-time data to predict alien movements and plan attacks. Engineers continuously upgraded ships mid-journey, creating weapons and defenses that could exploit alien weaknesses. Pilots, initially terrified, gained confidence and skill with every engagement. Morale became a key focus. Stories of bravery and ingenuity were broadcast across colonies to inspire civilians and troops alike. Humanity had been shaken, but it was not broken. Each encounter, each small victory, reinforced a critical truth. Survival required unity, courage, and relentless adaptation. The first major encounters with the alien forces marked a turning point for humanity. They realized that sheer numbers alone would not guarantee victory. Instead, success would come from adaptability, strategic thinking, and the courage to take calculated risks. Every loss, while painful, became a lesson. Humanity's engineers, scientists, and pilots learned to work in unison, developing tactics and technologies that would gradually level the playing field. Even as the alien fleet remained terrifyingly powerful, the humans' growing understanding of their enemy gave them hope and resolve. By the time humanity reached the sector closest to the destroyed colonies, they had transformed. What had begun as a terrified, reactive fleet had evolved into a coordinated, battle-hardened force capable of executing complex strategies against an advanced enemy. Casualties had been heavy, resources strained, and the psychological toll immense. But humanity's ability to learn and adapt had grown stronger than anyone had imagined possible. Every ship in the fleet, every pilot, every engineer, had become part of a living network of experience and knowledge. They were ready for the next stage of the war, a confrontation that would decide not only the fate of individual colonies, but the survival of humanity itself. In the midst of the fear, loss, and chaos, one undeniable truth emerged: humanity would not be cowed. The destruction of Erebus 9 had sparked a response that no alien could ignore. 500,000 warships, coordinated with precision, armed with new strategies and technologies, moved through the void with purpose. They were no longer just a fleet. They were the embodiment of human resilience, courage, and determination. The first clash had been devastating, but it had also been a lesson. Humanity had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. And now, as they approached the heart of alien-occupied space, they were ready to show the galaxy that humanity would fight for every world, every life, and every future. Humanity had traveled through the vast emptiness of space, facing countless dangers and overcoming incredible challenges, and now they were at the doorstep of the most important battle of their lives. The alien forces that had destroyed Erebus 9 and struck fear across human space were waiting, confident in their dominance. But what they did not anticipate was humanity's resilience and the speed with which humans could adapt. The human fleet, now battle-hardened and coordinated after countless skirmishes, was prepared to execute a plan that had been months in preparation. It was bold, risky, and complex, a multi-pronged assault designed to overwhelm the alien forces by attacking them from every direction simultaneously. Every ship, pilot, and drone had a role. Every movement had been carefully timed, and the stakes could not have been higher. The battlefield was set in a star system near the ruins of the first colony destroyed. Debris from Erebus 9 floated through space, remnants of cities and ships destroyed in moments. This grim scenery served as both a warning and a motivator. Humanity had witnessed the horror of alien power firsthand, and knew that failure was not an option. Commanders, led by General Kale Rivas, coordinated the attack with meticulous precision. Fleets approached from multiple vectors. Small strike teams acted as decoys, and heavy warships formed the backbone of the assault. Every pilot understood that the mission would test not only their skill but their courage. They were not just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for the survival of humanity, for every colony that could be next if the aliens were not stopped. The attack began with diversionary squads striking at minor alien outposts and patrols. These teams were designed to draw the alien forces' attention, forcing them to divide their fleet and respond to multiple threats at once. The decoy fleets executed daring maneuvers, weaving through asteroid fields and using their smaller size to evade detection while firing at critical points. At the same time, the main human fleet, consisting of the heaviest warships and most experienced pilots, moved into positions designed to exploit weaknesses the scouts had identified during previous engagements. The aliens, confident in their superior firepower and advanced technology, initially reacted with the aggression that had allowed them to destroy Erebus 9. They did not anticipate the complexity, coordination, and daring of the human strategy. As the battle unfolded, the alien fleet found itself forced to respond on multiple fronts simultaneously. Beams of destructive energy cut across space, striking ships from every direction. Massive explosions lit up the void as warships collided or were destroyed mid-flight. Human pilots performed maneuvers that seemed almost impossible, dodging attacks with precision and retaliating in moments. Engineers in orbital yards and onboard vessels continued to adapt in real time, modifying energy shields and weapon systems mid-battle to exploit weaknesses. The humans' ability to innovate quickly and use strategy rather than sheer numbers caught the aliens off guard. They had been used to overwhelming enemies with brute force, but human cunning and adaptability created chaos in their ranks. One of the most critical aspects of the battle was the use of gravitational anomalies and environmental hazards as weapons. Human engineers had discovered ways to manipulate the natural phenomena of the system, asteroid belts, gas clouds, and even planetary gravity, to disrupt the alien formations. Some human ships lured enemy vessels into asteroid fields where precise navigation was required, while others used artificial gravity wells to immobilize portions of the alien fleet temporarily. These tactics required precision, timing, and bravery, as human ships had to operate in equally dangerous conditions. Yet the risk paid off. Entire alien formations were trapped or forced into disarray, giving human forces opportunities to strike decisively. The psychological impact on both sides was immense. For humans, witnessing the first waves of success brought hope, courage, and determination. Stories of individual heroism spread rapidly across the fleet. Pilots who had previously faced certain death found themselves in situations where skill and daring turned the tide. Engineers patched critical systems in the middle of combat, ensuring that damaged ships could continue fighting. Soldiers on the front lines understood that every move, every decision could change the outcome. For the aliens, the sudden effectiveness and unpredictability of human strategies caused confusion and uncertainty. Their confidence, built on years of unchallenged victories, began to waver. The battle was intense and brutal. Human casualties were significant, but they were carefully managed, and every loss contributed to the fleet's understanding of alien tactics. Ships that survived the first waves returned to support others, forming tight formations to protect vulnerable vessels. Strike teams worked tirelessly to exploit gaps in alien defenses. Precision attacks on alien command ships disrupted coordination, and communication networks on the enemy side began to falter. The aliens, accustomed to single, overwhelming strikes, now faced a multi-dimensional strategy that they could not easily counter. The human fleet's adaptability, combined with relentless pressure, began to shift the balance of power. A key moment came when humans executed a synchronized strike on the alien command structure. Using a combination of stealth technology and feints, several human squadrons approached the core of the enemy fleet undetected. In a matter of minutes, devastating attacks disabled multiple alien command vessels simultaneously. Without clear leadership, the alien fleet became disorganized, their movements slower and less coordinated. This created openings for the human forces, who exploited every opportunity with skill and precision. What had seemed like an impossible fight began to turn in humanity's favor. The aliens' technological superiority was challenged not just by numbers but by strategy, coordination, and human ingenuity. Amid the chaos, acts of individual heroism were countless. Pilots sacrificed themselves to save entire fleets. Engineers risked their lives to repair critical systems under fire, and soldiers fought tirelessly in boarding operations against alien vessels. Civilians who had been trained in emergency response assisted with medical operations and logistics, ensuring that the fleet could continue fighting effectively. Every role mattered and every effort contributed to the larger victory. The collective courage, creativity, and resilience of humanity became the true weapon against the alien threat. As the battle wore on, the alien forces began to retreat. Their formations were broken, key vessels destroyed, and their morale shattered. Humanity had turned the tide, demonstrating that even a technologically superior enemy could be defeated through coordination, courage, and strategic thinking. The victory was not without cost, but it was decisive. Humanity had proven that it would not be destroyed without a fight, and that every colony, every life lost, would be avenged. The aftermath of the battle left humanity both exhausted and elated. The fleet had sustained significant losses, but the alien fleet had been crippled. The ruins of the destroyed colonies, including Erebus 9, were still a painful reminder of what had been lost, but the human response showed that hope, determination, and ingenuity could overcome even the most daunting odds. Lessons learned from this battle would inform future strategies, training, and technology development, ensuring that humanity could continue to defend itself and its colonies. In the vast emptiness of space, the human fleet held its formation over the battleground, battered but victorious. Ships carried survivors of the first encounters, repaired where possible, and prepared for the next stage of the campaign. Communication networks across the galaxy broadcast the news of the victory, inspiring hope in colonies that had feared for their survival. Humanity had faced annihilation, but through bravery, strategy, and unwavering determination, they had achieved what many had thought impossible. The memory of Erebus 9 would never be forgotten, but it had become a symbol of the courage and resilience that defined humanity. The turning point in the war marked a new phase. Humanity now understood that the aliens, though formidable, were not invincible. With lessons learned from the battle, coordinated strategy, and unwavering determination, humans were ready to pursue the alien forces, reclaim lost colonies, and prevent future destruction. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven its ability to adapt, fight, and survive against the most terrifying enemy it had ever faced. Courage, unity, and strategy had become humanity's most powerful weapons, and they would carry these into the battles yet to come. Humanity had emerged from the turning point of the war battered, exhausted and scarred, yet victorious. The alien fleet that had once seemed unstoppable was now in disarray, their forces scattered across the galaxy. Ships that had dominated space for decades were destroyed, their command centers crippled and their morale shattered. For the first time, humanity realized that the seemingly invincible enemy could be challenged, defeated, and driven back. The survivors of Erebus 9 and other destroyed colonies felt a mixture of relief, pride, and sorrow. They had lost everything, yet the sacrifices made had secured a future for the rest of human civilization. Across the stars, humans began to rebuild not only their fleets but their spirit, knowing that victory had come at a tremendous cost but had been worth every effort. The human fleet moved forward cautiously, aware that the aliens could still launch counterattacks. General Cal Rivas and his command teams meticulously coordinated the pursuit of the remaining alien forces. Intelligence networks scanned every system for signs of alien activity. Each fleet movement was calculated, designed to prevent ambushes and ensure that every remaining enemy vessel could be neutralized. Ships that had survived the main battle were repaired, retrofitted, and upgraded with lessons learned during combat. Engineers developed new weapons, enhanced shields, and improved navigation systems, ensuring that human forces were stronger, smarter, and faster than before. Every technological and tactical advancement was applied with precision, reflecting the determination of a species that had been cornered and refused to be defeated. As humanity pressed deeper into alien-controlled space, they found evidence of the devastation the aliens had left behind on other worlds. Colonies similar to Erebus 9 had been destroyed, their populations lost, and their cities reduced to rubble. The human fleet encountered derelict stations and drifting ships, silent witnesses to the alien campaign of destruction. These discoveries strengthened the resolve of human crews. They understood that their mission was not only one of retaliation, but also of justice and eventually of restoration. They were determined to ensure that no more colonies would be annihilated, that no more lives would be lost to the cruelty and ambition of an enemy that had underestimated human resolve. During the pursuit, humanity employed a combination of cunning strategies, technological innovation, and sheer determination. Fleets moved in coordinated waves, trapping alien ships between human forces and cutting off escape routes. Ambushes were set in asteroid fields and near gas clouds, using the natural hazards of space to humanity's advantage. Precision strikes disabled alien command centers, while autonomous drones carried out surgical attacks on high-value targets. Each engagement tested human ingenuity and courage, but the lessons learned from previous battles ensured that losses were minimized, while effectiveness increased. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers worked together with perfect synchronization, their actions now the product of months of grueling experience and preparation. Individual acts of heroism continued to shape the course of the war. Pilots risked their lives to protect supply convoys or to draw alien attention away from critical human warships. Engineers patched ships under fire, ensuring that critical systems remained operational despite severe damage. Soldiers boarded alien vessels in zero-gravity combat, disabling weapon systems and securing intelligence that would be vital for future operations. Civilians on human ships and colonies played crucial roles as well, providing medical aid, logistics, and communication support. Every action, no matter how small it seemed, contributed to the collective effort. Humanity's strength lay not only in technology or numbers, but in the unity, courage, and adaptability of its people. As the campaign progressed, the alien forces continued to falter. Without coordinated leadership and facing relentless human tactics, their fleet morale collapsed. Many alien vessels were abandoned or surrendered when defeat became unavoidable. Some attempted to retreat to distant sectors, only to be intercepted by pursuing human forces. Humanity's ability to anticipate, adapt, and innovate had turned the tide decisively. The war that had begun with the annihilation of Erebus 9 was now moving toward its conclusion. Humanity was no longer reacting. It was dictating the terms of battle, forcing the aliens to respond to human strategy rather than the other way around. In the midst of these operations, humans began reclaiming destroyed colonies. Erebus 9, though devastated, was visited by teams of engineers, soldiers, and relief crews. They found survivors who had escaped in pods or hidden shelters, offering them safety, food, and care. The rebuilding process was painstaking, requiring ingenuity to restore infrastructure on a planet that had been reduced to craters and rubble, but humanity was determined. The ruins of Erebus 9 were transformed into a symbol of resilience. Each restored building, each recovered technological advancement, and each life saved served as a reminder that even in the face of annihilation, humans could endure, rebuild, and thrive. The psychological and cultural impact of the victory spread across human space. News of successful operations and reclaimed colonies inspired hope in settlements that had feared alien aggression. Stories of bravery, sacrifice, and ingenuity were shared widely, teaching younger generations about the costs of survival and the importance of courage and unity. Humanity had endured a catastrophic threat, adapted, and emerged stronger. The shared experience of loss and triumph became a defining chapter in human history, reshaping the way civilizations viewed war, defense, and interstellar cooperation. The aftermath of the war also brought critical lessons in strategy and preparedness. Humanity understood that peace could no longer be assumed. Defense systems across colonies were enhanced, fleets were maintained at higher readiness levels, and intelligence networks were expanded to detect potential threats long before they could strike. Plans were developed to ensure that no single colony or sector could be isolated and destroyed without rapid human intervention. Lessons learned from the campaign, both technical and tactical, were codified in training programs, ensuring that the next generation of humans would be better prepared for the dangers of the galaxy. Despite the heavy toll, humanity had proved something fundamental. They would not be defeated, no matter how advanced or ruthless the enemy. The loss of 500,000 warships and countless lives was tragic, but the victory was decisive. Humans had faced annihilation and responded not with surrender, but with resilience, strategy, and courage. They had demonstrated that intelligence, adaptability, and unity were more powerful than raw strength alone. The alien threat had been forced to retreat, their fleets shattered and disorganized, their supremacy in space challenged for the first time in centuries. The survivors of Erebus 9 and other destroyed colonies became symbols of hope and courage. Their stories, combined with the heroic actions of pilots, soldiers, engineers, and civilians, served as a foundation for the collective memory of human space. Across colonies, Humanity honored those who had sacrificed their lives while celebrating the determination that had turned devastation into victory. Every rebuilt colony, every restored system, and every ship that returned to operational status stood as a testament to the unyielding will of humanity. As the dust settled, humanity entered a new era of vigilance, unity, and preparedness. The war had tested every aspect of civilization, technology, strategy, courage, and spirit, and had revealed strengths that had previously been untapped. Humanity understood that the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but they also knew that together they could face any challenge. The fleets that had once been mobilized for a single retaliatory strike remained active, both as a deterrent and as a means of rapid response to future threats. Humanity had answered the destruction of Erebus 9 with 500,000 warships, but, more importantly, they had answered with unwavering courage, ingenuity, and a commitment to survive and protect every colony under their care. The final outcome of the campaign was not just a military victory, but a cultural and moral triumph. Humanity had proven that no force, no matter how technologically superior, could break the spirit of a species united by survival, loyalty, and intelligence. The war had reshaped human society, instilling values of cooperation, resilience, and readiness for generations to come. Humans rebuilt, learned, and prepared, knowing that while the galaxy would always hold threats, their unity and determination were the greatest weapons they possessed. The victory was complete. The aliens had been driven back, humanity had survived, and the memory of Erebus 9 became a beacon of courage, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope, determination, and unity could prevail. Humanity emerged stronger, wiser, and more vigilant than ever. The war had ended, but the lessons would last forever. Humans had faced near extinction, and had responded not with despair but with an unparalleled display of courage, strategy, and resilience. The galaxy now knew that humanity, no matter the odds, would fight to survive, and that their answer to annihilation was not fear, but 500,000 warships ready to protect every life and every world.